Before this trip, I learned in AP World History and Human Geography about the power of a single story, how repeating just one narrative about a person or place can shape and oftentimes limit how we understand them. When it comes to South Africa, movies have shown me two extremes. Either it's just another African country defined by poverty and subjugation, or a land rich in resources and wealth, but where few prospered. I was determined not to let those stories define my experience. When I arrived to South Africa, I came with a question. How do South Africans and Americans remember and respond to their histories of racial segregation, and what lessons might they hold for one another? South Africa was a beautiful country, and while I expected to find answers mostly in museums and memorials, I was surprised to see how clearly those histories were alive, visible, and complex, right there on the streets. Apartheid, a word that means apartness in Afrikaans, was a legalized system of racial segregation in South Africa from 1948 to 1994. It stripped Black South Africans of basic rights, forcibly removed families from their homes, and confined them to underdeveloped townships, often far from jobs, schools, and hospitals. Across the Atlantic, the United States enforced its own racial hierarchy through Jim Crow laws. These laws institutionalized segregation in schools, public spaces, transportation, and beyond, treating African Americans as second-class citizens, denied equal access to opportunity, and subjected to constant discrimination and violence. But these are simplified textbook definitions of deeply complex histories. Each system was shaped by unique political, social, and cultural forces, experienced, remembered, and resisted in different ways depending on whose story you hear. Nonetheless, the legacies remain. Wealth disparities, unequal education, segregated neighborhoods, and systemic violence endure as living testaments to histories that are far from distant. After a grueling 19-hour flight, stepping into Johannesburg was a shock of sensations. The hum of plane engines, the fast food billboards, and the heavy scent of city life. At first, it felt familiar, like many places I've seen not in just the US, but my own community. But beneath the surface, this beautiful city told many stories. Women balanced baskets of fruits on their heads, while sprawling informal settlements laid nearby, extremely vulnerable to fires and disease. Everywhere, public memorials honored those who had fought for freedom, reminders that history was not only in typed museum displays, but also etched into the daily fabric of life. Our first official stop was the Mandela Museum. There, we were each handed a card marked either blankes or non-blankes, and immediately split onto two different paths. One quarter was lined with histories of white political prisoners. The other displayed real ID cards of Black South Africans imprisoned under apartheid. A curator told me that the split path design was meant to build empathy, but she also warned that museums could not capture the full reality of everyday life under oppression. Walking through, I saw mirrors reflecting the face of descendants alongside my own. Our reflections layered together. Different lives, different countries, separated by thousands of miles, but bound by shared scars. The next day, we traveled to Constitution Hill. Inside Prison 4, I spent 2 hours overwhelmed by a powerful mix of anger, grief, and sorrow, all for people I would never meet. Our guide was blunt. Many prisoners were innocent, targeted simply because they resisted a system that was never built for them to succeed. The guards weren't protectors, they were sanctioned torturers. Many men never left alive. The official plaques tell one side, the written history, but the guide's stories give a human voice, reminding me that official records and lived memories can tell two very different tales. In the isolation cells, names were scratched into doors, towels folded into delicate, beautiful sculptures, small acts of defiance that refused to be erased. The jacket I wore, my sole protector from the funneled icy winds, had felt so much heavier when the tears that fell began to stain its collar. Just steps away, the Constitutional Court stood in stark contrast, open, filled with light. Unlike the imposing U.S. Supreme Court, this building incorporated bricks and iron bars from the prison itself, transforming symbols of oppression into a foundation for justice. Though hung directly parallel to the entrance, a banner demanding reparations for apartheid victims served as a poignant reminder. Hope does not erase the need for continued work. The ferry to Robben Island felt like traveling to another world. Our guide, Dede Kosku Lesongo, a former political prisoner, spoke with quiet strength as he recounted his life story. Words like abuse, exploitation, and corruption could only describe the tip of the iceberg that Robben Island seemed to float on. He ended the tour repeating the one phrase written hundreds of times in that museum: "There's only one race, the human race." Lesongo shared how the island taught him that dignity and advocacy must overcome bitterness, fundamentally shifting my understanding of resistance from anger to enduring resilience. At the end of our tour, we visited Nelson Mandela's cell. It was small and bare and held no grandeur, only the weight of ideas that transformed history. Even here, the human spirit transcended confinement. If museums and memorials tell the story of apartheid in carefully framed pieces, the Langa Township tells it in real time. This township was one of many where Black South Africans were forcibly relocated under apartheid. Here, my single story was shattered. Instead of a place defined by poverty, it had a strong middle class. I saw vibrant murals telling rich histories, community leaders running programs for children, and a neighborhood alive with resilience and hope. Remembrance here is not static. It's painted on walls, embodied in community action, and carried forward by its people. How often in the US are historic Black neighborhoods simply frozen as monuments or erased through gentrification? South Africa offers a powerful example of weaving history into daily life, ensuring it shapes the future without being reduced to a static chapter in a textbook. The US, in turn, offers an example of persistent grassroots activism, communities that keep organizing, marching, and demanding justice long after laws have changed. Together, they remind us that history is not only about what happened, but what we choose to do next. I came to South Africa thinking I would learn about their history, but between museums, prisons, memorials, and streets, I ended up learning about my own. Both South Africa and the US carry scars from segregation, but also a shared determination to heal. This trip taught me that justice is not just a moment in time, but an ongoing journey, a daily act of remembering, building, and living. And like in that museum mirror, where my face was layered with another story, I now see my own history reflected in theirs.